Thank you. So am very excited to introduce our first speakers of the meeting, Anna Glenn and Joshua Zemah. Anna teaches at Liberian Christian College, and Joshua Zemah is an entrepreneur who has started a chocolate business, and they're going to teach us a little bit about how they developed this project. And I think we have some things to learn from them, because I know a lot of the growers that I work with in the US are interested in value-added products and ways to connect rural farmers and urban entrepreneurs. So I think that there's a lot to learn together. Anna and Joshua, would you get us started?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much, Neith, for having us. We're excited to be here. And as you said, we're going to be talking about how we are connecting these rural farmers with urban chocolate entrepreneurs here in Liberia. So just to give you guys a little background on who we are, my name is Anna Glenn, and I actually grew up in Maryland. I was a Baltimore County 4-H'er growing up, and then I went to University of Maryland for my bachelor's and Texas A&M for my master's in international agriculture. And then I came right back to Baltimore County, and I worked as an extension agent for a few years before coming over to Liberia in 2016. And we originally came over to teach agriculture here at the school.
My name is Joshua Zemah, a Liberian from Redimere County, a bachelor candidate at the Liberian International Christian College. And I started in 2018.
Just to give a little background of the school here, Liberia International Christian College, this is the picture of our campus here. So we're located about 4.5 hours away from the capital city of Monrovia. And so we are in a rural area, but we're also in a city called Ghanta, and we have about 40,000 people in this city here. This is a picture of the agriculture building on campus. All the classrooms and laboratories and things are on the first floor there, and then dormitories on the second floor. Currently, we have about 85 students in the bachelor's degree program, and about an additional 50 more students who are coming in and out throughout the different semesters. So just to give you a little bit of background on Liberia, we are located in West Africa. The population here is almost 5 million people, and about 20 to 25% of those people are living in the capital city of Monrovia. And then the rest are living in very rural areas. About 60% of the population is involved in agriculture, and that's subsistence agriculture, where people are mainly just growing enough to feed their families. But even with all of those people involved in agriculture, Liberia is still importing over 70% of their food into the country. And so it's a very food insecure country in regards to that. They import their staple food, which is rice. Probably 80–90% of the rice that's consumed here is imported from outside. And that imported food is actually very cheap, and it makes it hard for farmers to compete with that. So right now, there's inadequate opportunities for livelihood in the agriculture processing sector. There's a high level of food wastage due to shortage of storage areas and technology to be able to store and add value to the products here. There's large quantities of underutilized crops, and there's very low levels of agro-processing and value addition. And you'll see some of the reasons and challenges for that as we keep going and talking through in the presentation here. But one of the crazy things here about Liberia is that we do have hungry farmers. And so for me, that was kind of a crazy thing coming here to Liberia, realizing that there are farmers producing food, and yet they themselves are still hungry. So that's been a challenge here in Liberia. You want to talk about how it all began?
Okay. In order to help reduce the food wastage in Liberia, we began making a chocolate from the course called Food Processing and Preservation at the school. It is one of the courses that's offered to senior students. And during the period of the course, we can do preservation and value added. And through this course, we're able to start making some dark chocolate out of the cocoa bean that we get from the local farmer here in Liberia. And this is how it all started. We started making the chocolate, and it was not looking very fine as fried. We were not packaging it very well. We was not having mold for it. We just used to make the chocolate into block and then cut it with net on the cutting board. And we serve it to students and teachers on the campus. And for them to see and taste the chocolate that have been made here in Liberia by Liberian with the Liberian cocoa bean. So the students try to improve the packaging of the chocolate bar, and we just got the chocolate, we put it into the food wrap plastic, and we put it in the silver plastic. We have different kinds of chocolate that we made. We made it one with peanut, we made some with ginger, we made some with coconut, just to change the flavor of the chocolate for our people to taste it and to see how we can improve this chocolate making and to help raise funds for the students to be able to pay their school fee. So this is how we're looking for it with this chocolate bar packaging. In 2019, we started making some chocolate bar, and we started to package it in this paper tin, and we just label it Liberian chocolate, 100 LRCC dark chocolate made in Liberia by Liberia. And this is just how we're looking, and you will see how it is looking now.
Yeah, we'll show you a few pictures of how things have progressed, but those are the pictures from, I think, 2018 and 2019. When we first started making chocolate. Nobody here had ever tasted chocolate made from Liberian cocoa beans, right?
Yeah.
So the first time everybody tasted it, it was a really cool opportunity for all of us. It was just something we were experimenting with in that food processing class, like he said. And we watched a lot of YouTube videos to try and learn how to make chocolate. So just to give you a little bit of background on the Liberian cocoa sector specifically. So Liberia has been growing cocoa for over 100 years and exporting pretty much all of it. In West Africa, they grow, I think, at least 70 or 80% of the cocoa that's grown worldwide. And then most of that cocoa is exported to either Europe, North America, or Asian countries, where it is then transformed into chocolate and then, crazily enough, imported back into West Africa. So that's a lot of jobs and a lot of money that's leaving the country and being, you know, Liberia is not seeing the benefit of all of that cocoa that's being produced. So annually, Liberia exports about 10,000 tons per year, which is actually quite small in comparison to our neighbors, Sierra Leone and Ivory Coast, who export, you know, millions of tons. But the cocoa sector here, especially in Nimba County, where we are, this is what they call the cocoa belt. This county here has been growing cocoa for decades and decades. So many of my students here on campus, they have family who are growing cocoa. You have family who grow cocoa, right? Yeah, lots of people grow cocoa in this area. But unfortunately, the cocoa sector has kind of taken a turn for the worse. Ever since the 1980s, there was a civil war that erupted in Liberia, and it lasted until 2003. And during that war, millions of people were displaced. They had to leave their homes. Hundreds of thousands of people were killed. And so a lot of the agriculture, all of the agriculture, not just cocoa, you know, farms were abandoned. And in the tropical region here of Liberia, when the farm is abandoned, the rainforest very quickly takes over the cocoa farms. And so a lot of those are not up to snuff anymore. They're not producing like they used to because they were neglected for so long. The varieties are old, the trees themselves are old and nearing the end of their, you know, bearing years. So there's a lot of revitalization that needs to happen in the cocoa sector on the farms. Also during the war, a lot of the infrastructure was destroyed, the roads, the buildings, the electricity, the water lines, a lot of those things were destroyed. And so that makes it really challenging for farmers as well. And then another huge thing is the fact that agricultural knowledge was not passed down because for 23 years, people were living as refugees within their own country or within neighboring countries. And so a lot of the knowledge that would have been passed down from the parents to the children in terms of how to farm cocoa or how to farm other agricultural goods was lost. And so Liberia is struggling to come back from that. These are just some pictures, just to let you guys, you know, see how the cocoa value chain works. So cocoa pods grow on the tree. As you can see, those green pods hanging off the tree there. A tree can have about 50, 60 pods on it. And then once those pods are mature, they turn this yellow color, sometimes a red color, depending on the variety. And what people do is they bust the pod open and then they dump the fruit and the seeds into a kind of basket that they make out of banana leaves, and then the seeds and the fruit ferment for about a week inside that basket. And this fermentation process is a really important key step in developing the flavor and the quality of chocolate that is going to come about from those beans. And so we'll talk about that fermentation step a little bit later and how we're helping farmers develop that. So again, some more challenges that the farmers face here are the roads, like you can see in the pictures here. During rainy season, which is from May to November, some parts of Liberia are absolutely unreachable because of the roads being so bad. And they're in poor condition the rest of the year. And so to get out to some of our farmers is very exhausting trips on the Jeep, beating up and down, up and down, up and down. And a lot of our farmers also struggle to be able to, once they've grown and harvested their cocoa, how to get it out of the village. We've worked with farmers where it's taken 2-3 weeks for them just to find some means of transportation to get it out of the village. So that's very challenging for them. There's also the challenge of the issue with the market price. So in other West African countries like Ghana and Ivory Coast, the government helps to set a fair market price. So buyers aren't allowed to go beneath that certain price. And actually in Ivory Coast and Ghana, most of the cocoa is bought by the government and then the government sells it to third-party dealers. However, in Liberia, we don't have that level of control in the government. And so we have a lot of buyers and middlemen going out to the farmers and negotiating prices that are far below what we would consider fair. And so it's really difficult for individual farmers to be able to fight that system if nobody is, there for them and saying that no, cocoa should not be sold for anything less than this. And another thing that happens is when cocoa is ready to be harvested, which is in November, December, that's actually what we would call the hunger season in Liberia. So a lot of people, their reserves of rice that they had from last year is kind of running out. And so the farmers are in a very difficult position. And so they're willing to take any price that the buyers will give because they need money desperately to be able to buy food for their families. And the buyers know this. And we often find that they take advantage of the farmers during this season, especially. And so that's a big challenge for the farmers in terms of there not being a rock bottom price that the government sets or enforces. For the farmers in Liberia also, there is not a lot of incentive to produce quality cocoa. And so quality cocoa means that that fermentation step that we just talked about, I think on the last slide, the cocoa has to sit for 7 days and you have to turn it a certain number of times each day in order for the fermentation to go properly. But a lot of the buyers in Liberia are not looking at the quality of the beans, they're just looking at quantity. And so when the buyers come in and maybe a farmer did take the extra steps to make high quality cocoa, the buyers don't care. There is no premium for higher quality cocoa in Liberia because most of the cocoa here is not going for human consumption. It's very poor quality throughout the country. And so a lot of it is actually going towards, from what we understand from the government, like cocoa butter, lotions and things like that. So it's being pressed in for the oil and not so much for the taste and the flavor. And so farmers have no incentive to produce the higher quality bean, and therefore they're going to continue to get the lower prices for the poor quality beans. And a lot of our farmers don't have access to technology. And by technology, I don't mean, computers and phones and things like that. I mean simple things like solar dryers, how to build a solar dryer from plywood and plastic or something like that in order to dry your beans properly so that they don't have mold or anything. So these are a lot of the challenges that farmers face here in Liberia, and we are trying to help address through the business. Globally, there's a lot of problems in the cocoa business as well. Perhaps some of you guys may have heard about how there's a lot of child labor used in the cocoa industry, and that is usually a result of farmers not being paid a very fair salary, and therefore they can't afford to pay adult workers on the farms. And so of course, children are going to be a lot cheaper. And so that's how a lot of children end up in this cocoa labor sector. And so there's a lot of people who are trying to address this issue globally. A lot of the big companies are saying, okay, we're going to try and pay a higher price for cocoa. And even countries like, I think it's Ivory Coast right now, is trying to negotiate with these, these global buyers saying, we're not going to sell our cocoa unless you put a premium on it. You agree to pay, a fair price. But right now, I don't know if you can see the date on the article there, it says January 2020. We've been hearing a lot from our neighbors in Ivory Coast about how they're pretty much just sitting with a lot of beans in the port right now because none of the buyers are agreeing to pay the higher price, even though verbally they had said they would do so earlier in the year. So Ivory Coast now is sitting there with a lot of beans that need to be sold, and the buyers are still trying to negotiate. So I don't know how that's going to affect the cocoa chocolate industry, but Ivory Coast produces about 30 to 40% of the beans worldwide. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. You can see in that lower picture, there's a picture of the chocolate bar and what % of proceeds usually go to the farmer. And I think we're pretty familiar with, images like this for American agricultural products as well. But in the cocoa sector, it's typically about 3% that is going towards the farmer. And then 5% goes to local taxes and the middlemen, 12% again to middlemen or for storage facilities. And if you look at the bottom there, 43% is going to those countries that are importing it and doing the retail and supermarket. And so we're really looking at that as an opportunity, as something that we could capture that back into Liberia rather than exporting the other 95% of proceeds, that come from making a chocolate bar. We could keep those proceeds within Liberia and help stimulate the economy through a chocolate making business. This is just a picture of how, farmers dry their beans out on the sun, typically.
Okay, as you talked about these challenges faced by the farmers in the rural area, the people in the urban area have some challenges as well. Liberia population is made up of 75% of young people who live in the urban area. And those people are facing some such challenges. They are out of job, there's no job for them to do. And because there's no job, it causes the criminal rate in Liberia to increase. They are doing that because they want something to feed themselves, to have food to eat, to support their family, to have clothes to wear. And because there's no job, they just go about stealing things from people. And because of no job, the youth are discouraged, they are frustrated, they are just sitting down, they have nothing to do. You will see them passing all in the street. You're forcing them to become a politician. But many of the youth in Liberia right now are going to politics because there's no job for them. They are sitting down playing with phone on Facebook, on Instagram, on WhatsApp, doing nothing because there's no job.
And we know a lot of our own students here at the school are always struggling for money to go to school. They want to go to school, but not a lot of opportunities to earn money.
So Redimere farmers in the rural area get to then buy the cocoa beans for them, bring it on campus, work it out, make the chocolate bar, and then serve it to the people in the urban area. By that, we will be able to help the youth and the farmers in the rural area. And then when we bring the cocoa beans on campus, which the city we live in, the area we live is a city, and it has some youth that live here, we also create a job for them to be able to earn some money to pay their school fees, to help their family as well. Like in the same way, we'll be helping people in Monrovia, which is the capital city of Liberia, people who there will be able to seed our chocolate bar. They'll be able to sell the chocolate bar, and it will be providing job for them that will raise them funds to help themselves and their family as well. So Redimere as a business, we don't really focus on money. We focus on people, meaning we work with the farmers in the urban, in the rural area, and we work with the youth in the urban areas as well. And we make profit. The profit also go back to the farmer and the youth. When I say go back to the farmer, it means we pay them a fair price, and then we pay the youth that are working with us as well, And by that way, they have money to pay their school fee and then to support their family. And also the material that we will call waste product, or the cocoa farmer will call waste product, that the cocoa shell, the cocoa husk, will go back to the soil and will add nutrient to the soil. And we can use the cocoa husk as animal feed to feed animals with it as well.
And why don't you tell them what Redimere means?
Oh, okay.
Why you chose that name?
Okay, we had a name Redimere because the Liberian cocoa sector, as you said previously, it has been disrupted by war and Ebola and other activities. So we do believe that the cocoa sector will be redeemed. So the word redeem, the word Redimere means redeem in Latin. And we as Redimere members, we are trying to work hard to be part of the redemption that is to take place within the cocoa sector in Liberia.
And in the picture here, I don't know if you can see, but this is a farmer who is trying chocolate for the very first time that was made out of his cocoa beans. And that was a really cool experience for us to be able to share that with him.
Right now, with Redimere, we are trying to have a chocolate bar. So we carry our chocolate bar into Monrovia, which is the capital city of Liberia, in the grocery store. As you can see there, we have our chocolate bar. We have some bakeries who come and buy our chocolate to put it in their cake, to make chocolate cake. And we have some people who buy our chocolate to put it in the ice cream. We come and buy our chocolate and put it into the ice cream.
And all of those other businesses are Liberian businesses that we get to partner with as well.
The impact, we are Redimere for the past year. We have been working with 2 part-time workers, and we gave them wages that they will be able to use to help themselves with it, to help their family, and to pay their school fee. We have 1 full-time worker. We have 3 co-owners of the business, and we have been training farmers. We train like over 50 plus farmers, and we train them on how to produce a quality cocoa, to produce a quality cocoa. And by producing a quality cocoa, it will also help them to get a better price for the cocoa quality. Because if we produce a quality cocoa, then we have a higher price. And for the past year, we have been able to buy 3 plus tons of cocoa from the farmers. Because the business is located on LRCC campus, which is the Liberia International Christian College, the business promote the LRCC community, and that will help to bring in more students and more people to come on the campus to see what the school is doing. Also, we work with women and girl vocational program on the LRCC school. In the LRCC school, the women buy the lapa, and then they sew it, they made apron, they made lapa share for people, and they made a lapa bag for us as well. The lapa bag, as you can see right there, we put the chocolate into the lapa bag. That looks like a souvenir bag that our customer can buy and carry out of the country, or they carry for their friends and loved ones. So the ladies made a lapa bag, and we buy it from them. They raised funds for them, and then they will be able to help themselves as well. Those are some impact that the business is making. So the dream and or the goal for this business, we think and we hope that the business will grow to become a company, a very large one that will be able to employ more youth, that will be able to buy more cocoa from farmers, that will be able to train more farmers on producing a quality cocoa. As Anna said earlier today, like Africa and Ghana, they have plenty of cocoa, and Liberia, I don't think right now we'll be able to compete with them in volume, but we do believe that we can compete with them in quality. So we do believe, we pray that the business grow and be very big and train more farmers to produce quality cocoa that will be able to compete with other cocoa producing countries in Africa.
So does anybody have any questions?
Thank you so much. It is so heartening to see the work you've done to include the youth and the farmers and make sure everyone you work with benefits. It's really wonderful. We have at least 1 question in the chat box. We have a nice big group today, so if people could type their questions in the chat box, that would be helpful. We will have some time to unmute and chat after the question and answer session. There was one question, I think Steve Darcy was also very very heartened by your presentation and was wondering if we can purchase Redimere chocolate in the US.
We are not yet there. However, I think there's about 200 chocolate bars that are at my parents' house in Baltimore County because we're doing a fundraiser right now to try and raise money for a new machine. And so those bars are available if you would want to donate towards helping that fundraiser to help us buy a machine that helps press cocoa butter so we can start making some new products. So that is one way you can get a bar in the US right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, if you have a information about where people can participate in that fundraiser, if you put it in the chat or if you email me, I can send it to people afterwards.
Okay.
Let's see. Larry Schaefer says that he's in Cameroon. He's a US company, but he in Cameroon has been doing some aquaponics work and is exploring doing that in Liberia as well. And Anthony Nade has a question about who are the big buyers of cocoa beans. So those are kind of two very different questions or comments.
Well, aquaponics is cool. We do a little bit of that on campus, but we for sure need to learn more about it because fish is a big part of the Liberian diet. And then who are the big buyers? I don't know exactly, but I know that in Liberia, we have 11 registered buyers and they're coming from Lebanon, China, US, and Europe. I don't know the specific companies, but I know those are the countries where they're coming from.
Thank you. Let's see. Darren asks, are the peanuts, coconut, and ginger that go into your chocolate bars, are they also locally grown? And how do the farmer prices for those commodities? Is that also a similar situation with the chocolate?
Yeah, they're all locally grown, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The peanuts
that's really cool.
Are all locally grown. We buy them from the local market. They aren't really exported. They're all consumed locally. And so the prices for those are a bit better, you know, because everyone is buying them. There's not one big person that's influencing the price of that.
Thank you. Oh, and John Manarakiza, he spoke at last year's meeting. He says there's a big Liberian diaspora in the US, and he wants to know if there's any strategy to reach out to them as a potential market.
Yeah, definitely. We have a few people in the US who have reached out to us. People from South Africa, Europe, Australia, and the Liberian diaspora that want to try and help us figure out how we can get it out. So we're definitely developing partnerships. Just don't know when it's going to be when we can produce the volume to export.
Awesome. I think there's a couple people, it sounds like, who are interested in following up with you about potential either participating in your fundraiser or ways to collaborate. How can people do that?
So I can share a link for the chocolate fundraiser that we're doing right now. But if you're interested in talking with us more, you can just shoot Joshua and I an email. I'll try and drop that in the chat. And we can talk more. We have a website link that I can share there. We're pretty active on social media. So you can go to any of those links and scroll through and see, you know, the kinds of things that we've been up to. But we're definitely open to talking to more people and figuring out how we can make this bigger. Because like Joshua said, the dream is we can employ more students, help more farmers. You know, right now we're just a very small drop in the bucket, but there's a lot of potential.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for taking the time to talk with us.